Hello, and welcome to today's video about creating durable storage using the Ceph project. In this demonstration, we'll show you how to take local, ephemeral disks that would normally be temporary and unreliable and transform them into a rock-solid, distributed, and zone-resilient storage pool. We'll be layering Ceph on top of these otherwise throwaway disks to create a distributed and resilient storage system. While the principles we're discussing today can be applied to any cloud platform or on-premises environment, for speed and ease of demonstration, we'll be using Google Cloud Compute Engine to create our virtual machines. Let's begin by spinning up 3 lightweight virtual machines. We'll create 3 separate Ceph nodes, and we're specifically choosing N2 instance types because they allow us to attach local SSDs. For our demo, a single local SSD per VM is plenty, and we can skip cloud backups entirely because Ceph will handle all the redundancy for us. Now you might wonder why we need 3 nodes when technically 2 would function. The answer is that having a third node helps maintain a quorum if one node goes down, which significantly improves system stability. This proper quorum is essential for a production-ready cluster. While the first VM is spinning up, let's clone the configuration to create Ceph Node 2 and Ceph Node 3. All 3 nodes will communicate with each other using their internal IP addresses, which is important for building our distributed cluster. Let's jump into the first node using Google Cloud's Browser SSH console feature. Our first step is critical. We need to generate a cluster-wide SSH key pair that will allow all nodes to communicate securely with each other. We'll do this by running the SSH keygen command and pressing enter to accept all the default settings. Once we have our key pair generated, we need to copy the public key and add it to the SSH keys section of every VM. This allows each node to log into the others without requiring passwords. The great thing about Google Cloud Platform is that it picks up these new keys instantly without requiring any reboot. Let's do a quick sanity check to make sure our connectivity is working. We'll SSH from node 1 to itself first, then to node 2, and finally to node 3. If you see a prompt each time without any authentication errors, you're golden and ready to proceed. Now it's time to install Ceph. We'll run sudo apt-get update to refresh our package repositories, followed by sudo apt-get install y cephadm cephcommon. These packages contain all the base tooling we need for Ceph. After installation, let's verify everything is working by running with cephadm. If the system can't find it in your path, you'll need to create a copy and user local bin so it becomes accessible as a binary command. Now comes the exciting part, bootstrapping the cluster. We'll run the cephadm bootstrap command with several important parameters. We'll specify the mon IP flag with node 1's interval IP address, provide the SSH private and public keys we just generated, and specify the SSH user, which needs to have passwordless sudo permissions. The full command looks like sudo cephadm bootstrap followed by the mon IP parameter with your node's internal IP, the SSH private key parameter pointing to your private key file, the SSH public key parameter pointing to your public key file, and the SSH user parameter set to your current user variable. If this command finishes without errors, congratulations! Node 1 is officially the first member of your Ceph cluster. As the cluster spins up, make sure to immediately jot down the dashboard URL, username, and password that appear on screen. This is crucial because once this screen disappears, you won't see these credentials again. Next, we need to add our remaining 2 nodes to the cluster. However, they're not ready yet. If you check the host list at this point, you'll see only node 1. The bootstrap process handled all the setup for node 1, but nodes 2 and 3 still need some preparation. Let's SSH into node 2. You'll notice the hostname changes, confirming you're now on the second VM. Here we need to install the prerequisites that Ceph requires. Run apt update, then apt install chrony 1 VM2 podman y. These 3 packages tick every prerequisite box for Ceph to function properly. The chrony package handles time synchronization, 1VM2 provides logical volume management, and podman is the container runtime Ceph uses. Repeat these exact same commands on node 3 to prepare it as well. Now for the moment of truth. Let's register these hosts with our cluster. For node 2, we'll use the ceph command to add it, passing its internal IP address and tagging it with admin just like node 1. Copy and paste the command, swap in node 3's IP address, and you're done adding both nodes. Looking good. Now let's hunt for unused disks and turn them into OSDs, which stands for Object Storage Daemons. Run ceph org apply OSD all available devices. This command will automatically identify all unused disks across our nodes and configure them for Ceph storage. You should see 375GB NVMe drives instantly report for duty, 1 per node. This is a nice win and shows our cluster is recognizing all available storage. Time to give the cluster something to chew on and create an actual workload. First, we'll create an RBD pool, which stands for RADOS block device. Then we'll use the RBD CLI to carve out a 100GB test image. The commands are rbd create rbd test vol size 100G followed by rbd map rbd test vol. If you run lsblk now, you'll see a brand new 100GB device has appeared. This is Ceph-backed block storage that looks just like a regular disk to your system. Let's format it as ext4 and mount it to make it usable. We'll create a test directory and mount our new Ceph-backed device there. Then, to demonstrate that our storage is working, we'll create a background loop that writes the current timestamp to a file every second. The command uses a while true loop that outputs the date, writes it to a file using sudo t, sleeps for 1 second, and repeats, all running in the background. If you encounter permission issues, just use sudo kill to stop the loop and restart it with proper sudo permissions for the t command. Now SSH back to node 1 and run lsblk. You can watch the file grow in real time, which proves our Ceph cluster is alive and actively writing data. Initially, you might notice the raw date format is causing some issues with how the data appears. We can fix this by adding a format specifier to the date command. Using +%s will output the timestamp in seconds since epoch, which is much cleaner. Much better. Now we're generating one new file every second with clean timestamps. If you watch the file list, you'll see it snowball rapidly. The cool part here is that each file is automatically striped across our distributed storage system. This gives us built-in resilience with no extra work required. The file count should jump by 2 every second, and that's exactly what we're seeing. Let's let it run for a while to accumulate some data. Here comes the fun and dramatic part of our demonstration. I'm going to yank one of the physical nodes right out of the Ceph cluster to simulate a catastrophic failure. We'll hit stop on the VM, effectively killing the node completely. But watch what happens. The counter still climbs. We experience 0 data loss and 0 drama. The system continues functioning perfectly. Let's prove the data integrity. If we cat all the files, we get a perfectly ordered list of timestamps, 1 per second, clean and intact. This is boringly reliable, which is exactly what you want from a storage system. Running Ceph status shows a health warning because one OSD is down, yet the cluster keeps humming along. Yes, our redundancy is degraded, but every single byte of data is still there and accessible. In fact, I could delete the whole VM permanently and the data would survive elsewhere in the pool. Let's tidy up the cluster metadata. We'll use sudo ceph host rm followed by the host name to remove the ghost node from Ceph's tracking. In a real-world outage, you'd go through a graceful drain process to mitigate data off the node first. But since we're simulating a sudden catastrophic failure here, using the force flag is appropriate for our demonstration. After cleanup, we're left with 2 NVMe SSDs across 2 hosts, and all our original files are still piling up every second. There's no corruption, no surprises, just the durability that Ceph promised and delivered. This demonstrates the power of Ceph, turning ephemeral, unreliable storage into a robust, distributed system that can handle node failures without losing data. Whether you're working in the cloud or on premises, these principles apply and can save your data when hardware inevitably fails. If you'd like to support the channel, consider starting a free trial of our new design tool, which is linked in the description, and let us know what you think. If you have any questions, please post them in the comment section and we'll do our best to respond. Thank you very much for watching to the end, and please enjoy responsibly.